Liam had grown up in one of those tiny Filipino coastal villages where everyone knew everyone and where dreams usually stayed dreams. At 17, he already carried the kind of responsibilities that would overwhelm most adults. His father had passed away when he was only 10, leaving him as the oldest man in the house, the one expected to help his mother keep the family afloat. Every morning he woke up before sunrise, swept the sand off the small wooden porch, and ran to the pier to help fishermen unload their catch. They paid him in coins or extra fish, and he never complained. After school, he walked along the sea wall selling banana chips, packaged water, and sometimes homemade mango ice candy. But the thing that made people stop, even for a moment, was his voice. Whenever market stalls grew loud and chaotic, people could still hear Liam singing somewhere in the distance, his voice cutting through the noise like something fragile yet strong. He never had formal training, never owned a microphone, never even had proper shoes most days. But he had something else, a natural gift that came from somewhere deep inside him, something emotional and haunting. Locals often asked him why he put so much feeling into every song, and he would always say the same thing, because singing was the only time he didn't feel the weight of life pressing on his shoulders. One afternoon, he was singing near the pier when a tourist couple on vacation from California heard him. The woman stopped in her tracks, pulled out her phone, and recorded his entire performance of a classic ballad. She uploaded it to social media that same night, thinking a few friends might enjoy it. By morning, the video had reached thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Within 3 days, it hit 1 million views, with comments flooding in from all over the world. Who is this boy? Why does he sound like that? This kid needs to be on a big stage. Liam didn't even know he had gone viral until his neighbor rushed into their house yelling his name. He watched the video with wide, trembling eyes, unable to believe it was really him. His mother cried quietly in the corner, overwhelmed and unsure of what any of this could mean for their little family. Then, one afternoon, as rain tapped on the thin metal roof above their heads, an email arrived from a producer at America's Got Talent. They wanted him to audition. They wanted to give him a chance. Liam stared at the message for nearly 10 minutes, frozen. He reread it 5 times, convincing himself it had to be some kind of mistake. But when the producer followed up with a call and spoke to him gently, telling him how much the judges would love to hear him, something inside him shifted. For the first time in his life, he allowed himself to imagine a life beyond the village, beyond the daily struggle. A chance to sing on a stage he had only seen on YouTube. A chance to help his family in ways he never thought possible. The night his mother finally agreed to let him go, he cried into her shoulder like the little boy he used to be. In that moment he realized that dreams don't care about where you're born, they only care about whether you're brave enough to follow them. When Liam arrived in America, he felt like he had stepped into another world entirely. His entire life had been spent surrounded by salt air, wooden boats, small pastel houses, and narrow streets crowded with vendors and children. But here, everything was huge. The airport alone felt like a city. People rushed past him in suits, dragging high-tech luggage. Announcements echoed overhead in perfect American English. Liam clutched his small backpack, the one his mother had sewn his name onto, as if it were the only familiar thing left in the world. He had practiced speaking English during the long flight, whispering sentences under his breath, worried he might embarrass himself. But even with all that practice, he felt his voice shake whenever someone asked him a question. A volunteer from AGT picked him up at the airport and drove him to the hotel. Liam spent most of the ride staring out the window, watching the skyline rise like a massive steel forest. He had never seen so many lights in one place, or so many cars, or buildings that seemed to touch the clouds. He couldn't tell if he was dreaming or awake. The next day, he walked backstage at AGT for the first time. Everywhere he turned he saw singers warming up, dancers stretching, magicians organizing props, and performers in expensive outfits gliding around like they belonged there. Liam stood in the corner, feeling small in his simple clothes and sandals. He overheard some contestants talking about vocal coaches, performance studios, and years of training. His stomach twisted. What was he doing here? He had never even held a proper microphone before. At one point, Liam almost walked out. He stepped toward the exit, telling himself it would be better if he left before embarrassing himself on national television. But then he heard someone call out, "Hey, kid. It was the old janitor sweeping a corner of the hallway. The man looked at him with kind eyes and said, "You're here because you deserve to be here. You earned this. Don't let fear steal your moment." Those words hit him harder than he expected. He nodded quietly and returned backstage, breathing slowly, reminding himself of everything he had survived to get here. Hours passed. He watched act after act get called. His heart pounded every time the door opened, expecting his name. When he finally walked onto the stage for rehearsals and saw the massive arena for the first time, he felt goosebumps all over his arms. This was it. The place he had dreamed of while singing in markets and by the sea. Later that night in his hotel room, he video called his mother. She smiled at him through the tiny screen, telling him she had never been prouder. "No matter what happens," she said, "you already made it here. That means something." Liam held her words close to his heart. For the first time, he didn't feel like the poor boy from the fishing village. He felt like someone with a chance. Someone with a voice the world actually wanted to hear. When Liam finally stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage, the bright lights nearly blinded him. The crowd stretched farther than anything he had imagined, a sea of faces waiting to see who he was and why a simple boy in worn-out shoes and a plain shirt was standing in front of them. He tried to hide the slight tremble in his hands as he clutched the microphone. Simon glanced at him with curiosity, Heidi offered a warm smile, Sophia tilted her head, Howie leaned forward as if trying to get a better read on him. To them, he looked shy, almost fragile, but there was something about his eyes that suggested he carried more stories than his age could explain. When Simon asked where he was from, his accent slipped through immediately. I'm from the Philippines," he answered softly. A few people in the crowd cheered, recognizing the small island nation he called home. Simon asked what he did back there, and Liam explained that he worked odd jobs and sang whenever he could. The judges nodded politely, unaware of what was about to happen. When Simon asked what song he would be singing, Liam simply replied, "A song that reminds me of home." The music started, a calm instrumental that echoed across the auditorium. Liam closed his eyes for a moment and pictured his mother sitting by their small kitchen table, the waves outside, the smell of the ocean breeze. When he opened them again, something shifted in his expression, like he had left behind his nerves and stepped into who he truly was. His voice came out soft and controlled, rich with emotion, and the crowd immediately quieted. But when he reached the higher notes, his tone transformed, rising into a stunning, angelic pitch that made people gasp. It was as if two different singers existed inside one body, blending their voices into something powerful and haunting. Halfway through the performance, people began to rise from their seats. First a few in the front row, then the entire center section, then the upper seats. The energy in the room intensified, spreading like electricity. The judges looked at each other, their expressions shifting from surprise to shock to pure admiration. Liam hit the final high note with everything he had. Every struggle, every loss, every moment of hope poured into that single sound. When the music ended, there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by an explosion of applause. The entire arena rose as one, cheering and screaming louder than any reaction the show had seen in years. Simon shook his head, almost laughing at how unbelievable the moment felt. "That," he said into the microphone, "is the loudest standing ovation in AGT history." Heidi added that she felt chills from the first word he sang. Sophia said his voice didn't just reach people, it pierced them. Howie told him that he reminded him why the show existed, to find unbelievable talent in the most unexpected places. Liam felt his chest tighten as the judges gave him 4 massive yeses. He bowed deeply, tears filling his eyes as he walked backstage. The crew clapped for him. Contestants hugged him. Even strangers wanted to shake his hand. For the first time in his life, the world wasn't just watching him, they were cheering for him. And he felt, deep inside, that this was only the beginning. Hollywood Week arrived with a level of pressure Liam had never experienced. The competition tightened, the days grew longer, and the rehearsals became grueling. Instead of the warm welcome he felt after his audition, he was suddenly surrounded by dozens of contestants who had trained their whole lives for this moment. Vocalists with expensive teachers, dancers with sponsorships, magicians with crews and equipment, and performers who walked with an air of confidence he didn't yet have. Liam, with his thrift store clothes and quiet voice, felt like the odd one out. Every morning began at dawn. There were vocal warm-ups, staging rehearsals, camera-blocking sessions, and interviews. He tried his best to keep up, but the exhaustion began to show. Sometimes he would step aside, place a hand over his chest, and breathe slowly just to calm the anxiety rising inside him. Several contestants whispered behind his back, saying things like, "He got lucky," or, "He won't last long once the real pressure hits." Their words stung, but he never confronted them. Instead, he stayed focused and reminded himself why he was here. One evening, while practicing alone in a quiet corner, a producer approached him and asked if everything was okay. Liam nodded, but his voice cracked a little. He admitted he felt overwhelmed, that he wasn't sure if he was good enough to be here. The producer smiled and said, "Everyone here is talented. What sets you apart is your heart. You sing like someone who survived something. That matters more than you think." Those words stayed with him. As the day of his Hollywood Week performance approached, Liam debated which song to choose. He could pick something safe, something easy. But he didn't want to blend in. He wanted to remind everyone of the voice that had brought the world to its feet. So he chose a song that was both classic and emotionally demanding, a ballad known for its depth and complexity. His coach warned him that it was risky. But Liam believed that without risk, he would never grow. When he stepped onto the smaller Hollywood Week stage, the atmosphere felt harsher. The judges were more serious. The other contestants watched from the sidelines, waiting to see if the so-called viral kid could really deliver under pressure. The lights dimmed, and Liam took a deep breath. As the music began, he let everything go, the fear, the exhaustion, the insecurity. His voice came out full of emotion, carrying a pain and tenderness that silenced the room.